Well, joining us now from the capital of Honduras is Adrienne Pine, a professor and author of the book Working Hard, Drinking Hard on Violence and Survival in Honduras. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
When we look at these horrific numbers of people who've been murdered in Honduras, is it being driven just solely by drug-related violence, or are there other factors that's causing so much blood to be shed?
There absolutely are other factors, and when we talk about gangs in Honduras, we really have to look at the broader context, and that context right now, the most important recent event, of course, is the 2009 military coup that overthrew the democratically elected and quite popular government of Manuel Zelaya Rosales. And following that coup, which, as I mentioned, was carried out by the military that is now being brought out to control this supposed menace of gangs, has served to remove all pretense of democracy from Honduras. And so rather than solutions that focus on education or jobs, I mean, what Honduras is really lacking right now is any sort of democratic control. It was mentioned in the report that the police are indeed very corrupt, and that's quite true. But that has been a major focus of the Honduran the powers that be, with the aim of militarizing the police and militarizing the entire country. So it's a very dangerous discourse, and gangs are not at all the source of the worst violence in Honduras. That comes from the government itself, which has been criminalizing the youth and criminalizing poverty through legislation and through very violent means for a long time now, but intensified since the military coup that has received quite a bit of U.S. support de facto.
Right, we also heard in that report there from John Holman that the gangs are prepared to stop the violence if there is an alternative. But we also heard that government officials say, we have nothing to offer, we have nothing to bring to the table. What do you make of that?
Well, this government is a government that was brought to power in fraudulent elections that were, that none of the international monitoring organizations agreed to monitor because they were carried out without conditions for free and fair elections. It was only the U.S. National Endowment for Democracy that basically pushed them through. The U.S. government helped this current president to come in power. All of the candidates who had opposed the coup boycotted the election. So what we have is a president who doesn't really have any legitimacy. And the main agenda of this presidency and of this regime has been to privatize all of the public resources and, and to sell off the natural resources of Honduras. And so what that has meant is that thousands of people have had their lands taken away, their water supplies, their resources. They're being subjected to the health impacts, the violent impacts of mining corporations, and it's really a dire situation. And so that's been done for the profit of a very few people and at the expense of very many. And that's been done quite deliberately by the Pepe Lobo administration, which has received an immense amount of U.S. support. And of course, now what we find is that there are vast numbers of people who are unemployed, who are in poor health, who don't have access to public services because those public services have been taken away.
Right.
And rather than looking at the structural causes of this, what's happening is that the people who are suffering, who are the victims of these policies, are being called at-risk youth, or are being blamed for the violence and being called gang members and being, as such, subject to further militarization and further violence.
Okay.
And it's important to remember also the U.S. is a military occupying force here.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. We've run out of time. Adrienne Pine, thanks for joining us.